Hello. Welcome to Game Audio Hour, episode 147. This is a weekly podcast where we discuss all things game audio, from creative ideas to the latest techniques, project experiences to audio secrets. Here is where you'll find in-depth coverage and opinions related to game audio. I'm Vince. You've seen me before. And that's Chase. You've seen him before. Hey, Chase, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty well, Vince. How you doing over there?
Not bad, not bad. I'm just really tired, honestly. It's been let's just say it's been kind of a stressful weekend. You know, there's been a whole lot of things that have happened over the last week, and most of it is not related to work in game audio. And I think some guys know what I'm talking about. And, you know, maybe we'll talk about that stuff later on. But for now, let's try to stick to some of this more fun and joyous stuff, because video games are pretty fun. And actually, even working in video games is a real fun thing, something that I am very lucky. I count myself as very lucky to be part of this wonderful industry. So let's spend some time just thinking about that right now. And
Absolutely.
I wanted to start off with actually a little bit of a toy here. And I wonder if some of you guys know about this. Any of you guys familiar with this item?
That is a compressor, isn't it? Yeah, the DBX.
It's not quite a compressor. It's actually a preamp, although I do use it specifically because of compression.
Don't they have a DBX compressor too?
They do. I mean, it's in the same series, the whole silver face series that they've got here. And I wanted to talk about that because this DBX 386 is actually really poo-pooed a lot. There are a lot of people out there that think that this is one of the worst pieces of gear out there. You can search for DBX 386 and just everyone says, oh, it's really bad. It's a tube preamp with a starved tube design, which means they run it slightly under voltage. And so the tube really doesn't do anything. The quality of the gain really isn't all that great. It's not a very musical sounding preamp. Have you heard about this before? Do you know about this preamp's reputation?
I do know a little bit about it. I had used it when I was in audio engineering school 10 years ago. So it wasn't so bad where the school didn't have it. So it must have been good.
Yeah, I mean, DBX is actually a pretty good name. They make some really good 500 series stuff. I think a lot of people would say that the 676 channel strip is actually really good. But there's a lot of people that hate on this thing. I actually love it. And I think it's actually one of my favorite preamps for tracking video game vocals.
Video game vocals. Okay, now you have my interest.
Yeah.
What kind of video game vocals are these, Vince?
Well, I mean, video game voiceover artists typically have to really run the gamut when it comes to dynamic range, right?
Sure.
You have, they're starting out being like, all dramatic and traditional voice acting roles. But there are a whole lot of video games out there where you just need stuff to be loud, stuff to be communicative. And, this actor suddenly needs to just get up to the top of their range and scream because, they're doing death screams. Oh, great. They're actually doing 5, 10, 20, 50 different death screams. And you probably don't want them to be doing that for more than an hour or so. But I actually really like this preamp because it has a pretty interesting facility on there called their Type 4 analog to digital converter. And the basic idea is when it converts that analog signal to digital, it doesn't convert the whole signal linearly. Once you get up to that last 4 dB in the digital range, it actually starts compressing the analog signal logarithmically to map it onto the digital range. The idea being that it makes it extremely difficult to clip the digital.
Really?
You're just gonna scream into that thing, and as long as you don't scream that much harder, you know, and by that much I mean more than 15 dB.
Okay.
Yeah, but you can still get good high frequency information, even going 15 dB over where it would otherwise clip. And because of that, I think that this preamp is actually really cool. It's honestly saved my bacon a whole mess of times because people aren't quite sure where to set things. We don't want guys during these voiceover sessions to start screaming at the top of their lungs at the top of the session. You know, we want them to save it for the end. We can't always set all of our signal flow to be proper for the full dynamic range that this voice actor is actually going to put out there. So, okay, we'll set it a little hot. It'll be fine. We'll get good signal for this stuff. And then by virtue of the analog to digital converter, we got some extra headroom there for when stuff inevitably gets even hotter than we expected. So this thing is actually really good. It is. A lot of the people that poo-poo this particular preamp, they're saying things like, "Oh, it's not a very good musical preamp. Oh, it doesn't sound great on my electric guitar. Doesn't sound great on my singing voice." But for voiceover artists, it's actually a really great tool. It's a really, really fantastic tool. So,
so how much did you pay for it?
I paid $150.
And that was online, or did you get it off
Craigslist?
Right. Okay. And how long did it, like, it seems like you were searching for this type of preamp for a while now. Am I correct?
Well, I've actually had this for a few years, but yeah, it's only recently that I got it.
Okay. So then you were kind of researching to find something to fit what you said it's really great for, which is that dynamic for being in character and going up to the SPL that it, you know, it could be at its limit for. So how long have you been researching for that, and when did you discover that this was actually good? Was it like was it like an idea that you had and you wanted to like test it out, or was it by pure chance or somewhere in a studio session? What came about it that you got to narrow it down that way?
Yeah, it was honestly an idea that I had because there were some other preamps that I saw being used at a lot of studios in SoCal for voice actors. You know, obviously you have your really just great, awesome preamps like your Great Rivers and your Avalons and whatnot, and those were already out of the picture because they were $1,000, $2,000 preamps.
Yeah.
Okay, not quite for my budget. And then there was a bunch of other preamps. There was one particular one by Aphex. And this was the Aphex 1100 preamp. And they actually have an interesting technology called MicLim, which is super cool. Basically, they have a limiter that happens before the preamp. So it's between the microphone and the preamp, which is really funny, but actually their patent is really good. Basically what it does is it will change the impedance on the mic before the preamp section. And when you change the impedance, that will actually change the gain. And they do that based on an optical attenuator that will actually check to see whether the signal threshold before it hits the preamp actually goes above, and then it will change the impedance. And change the impedance, you change the gain, you change the tone, and mostly in the high frequency transients. And then it's actually kind of ingenious. But those Aphex preamps are a little expensive too. I was looking around at some other things that could possibly do something similar that would be really great for voiceover actors. And after a while, I found this DBX, which is like a 2-decade-old preamp design, and I think it's actually really fantastic for voiceover.
Well, check that out. Now you heard it here first. DBX 360 preamp, great for VO work. Not your guitars, not your music, not your singing.
It's not the best for singing. It really isn't. Let's see. Bob Till You Flop in the chat is saying, is it using a look-ahead limiter or a non-look-ahead or soft clipping? It's, the DBX 386. It is not really using either of them. If you use it as a straight-up analog preamp, you're not really going to get any benefit. The big thing is if you're going to be using the digital out on it. And the fact that the digital conversion is non-linear at the very top of the dynamic range is what effectively gives you what they would call an infinite limiter. It's not quite infinite. If you really, really don't set your gain right, you will run into clipping. But otherwise, you actually get about 15, 20 dB of headroom by virtue of that non-linear last 4 dB of the digital dynamic range. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And honestly, it's a great deal. I was looking on places like Craigslist and Reverb. Just right now, it's still relatively cheap. You can easily get them for about $200. And for something that will give you peace of mind, that will save you time because you're not having to constantly redo takes because the voice actor didn't realize just how much he was going to give in the middle of the session. I think that's actually a pretty good deal. So that is my tip for today.
Awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
So again, to recap, it's the DBX 386.
Yes. It's pretty cool. You should do it. You should get one, Chase. Although, do you do a lot of VO recording?
I do. Actually, I just did a pitch for a commercial that we might get, and they were not using that, but it wasn't for a game. So, but yeah.
Nice.
Thinking, I noticed. I may ask one more question. That you had it outside of it. Looks like a outboard gear into a rack, and so. Do you have a rack set up in the office, or is it something at home you're going to be using? Or
I actually don't have a proper rack. I've got a lunchbox for a couple of 500 series stuff, and I do have some rack gear. Like my audio interface is this RME. It's rack gear, but it's not mounted in anything. I've actually never had a proper rack. Which is too bad because I actually cut my legs and my arms on these things almost all the time. I'm like, oh shoot, am I going to cut my arm again? No. It's gotten to the point where maybe I should just wear Kevlar work gloves while I'm handling this thing, because that's what I'll do. One of the things that I'll do is I will go to different voiceover actors in SoCal. I'll go over to their place, set up a mic, set up a reflection filter, and I will bring my preamp with me along with my mics and all sorts of stuff, and I will record them right there. And it works out pretty well, I'll do that. I like to think that I have a decent enough mic set up that I can mimic the things that these guys were doing previously in the studio. And if I can't do it just with the gear, then I'll use Isotope for a little bit of finishing touches on that. But yeah, with stuff being outside of racks, I am liable to get cut and cut and cut again.
So you have some game audio wounds over there, huh?
Oh yeah, lots of wounds here.
Well, that's great. Nonetheless, as long as it works, who cares?
Yeah.
If we're not getting cut, we're not working hard enough.
Ha! Something like that. I definitely prefer to. I don't mind my brain having to bear some pains and struggles, but once I'm shedding blood, that might be a little bit too much. Have you been playing with any cool stuff lately?
Let's see. In my mind, yes. Well, actually, I did test out that Nova compressor, and let me make sure I'm saying this correctly. Let's see. I think Kyle had tweeted out about it a couple weeks ago. The Nova EQ by Tokyo Dawn Records.
Oh yes, that's right. I do remember him talking about this.
Right, Nova's parallel dynamic equalizer. Yes, equalizer. I was playing around with that when I was MIA for those 2 weeks, and I was working on a really big project, and just kind of toying with it to see like how I really was comparing it between the EQ and Cubase natively, because that one is actually really, really good and kind of close to some of the character offers. But then since it was free, I couldn't really ignore it, and I thought I'd give it a shot and test it out. And it's not bad. It's a little stiff with the Q in terms of like the knobs and such, but I mean, like, you can get over that pretty fair. But in terms of like what it needs to do in terms of its job is pretty decent. I didn't get a chance to go too deep into it, but I say, you know, give it a shot. It's free. And if anyone else has the time to go out and if you have Felt Filter, I don't have Felt Filter already. I mean, I probably could download the demo and do a comparison test. But I thought that I think Felt Filter may be just still a little bit better. I couldn't really tell too much of difference natively between my Cubase EQ and the Nova, but nonetheless, I think it's still kind of good to have. Maybe it's one of those I was working on sound design to be specific, so I was tuning out certain frequencies, whether it be in the low end or the high end. Like I said, if I was doing a notch type of boost and sweep to cut out some unnecessary frequencies that I didn't want in the sound, then it was working fairly decent, and I would just double up with the native EQ on Cubase and then add that on top if I needed a little bit more. It actually adds as a good double for a high pass filter too. So when I double up on it, but by itself, it does pretty good. I think it's, for it to be free, I think it's not bad. So I think it could do more, and I just need to use it more. I only had 2 weeks to really, but I think it takes a little bit longer to get into what it can really do.
Right. Yeah, let's see. Sean in the chat is actually saying, yeah, I've used that. I like the interface, but I don't think it was as intuitive as it should seem. What do you think about that sentiment?
In terms of intuitive, I think it's actually pretty straightforward, because you have 4 bands, and then, like I said, you have the Q at the bottom, and you have the frequency knob and such like that. And then, I mean, it almost was similar to me in terms of the native Cubase EQ worked. So, like, maybe Sean is probably doing something a little bit more in depth, but one thing I think I would have appreciated more if I were to add, it was like in WaveArts, they have a really great plugin and you can add nodes. So usually it's like a 4-band EQ or 6-band, allowing you to EQ different parts of the frequency spectrum from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz in between. But 4 limits you to like technically a 4-band EQ, whereas then if you add nodes, you can add up to 6, 8 or more, allowing so. And so I think that might be a limitation. But if it's for more of a quick fix and not a really surgical type of EQing process, I think the quick fix will be just suffice and really good. But I think it's pretty easy. I mean, it's just the 4 bands and the Q and sweep and going forward.
It does look pretty simple to use. I mean, I actually have it, but I've never installed it. Yeah, because I remember Mike actually talking about it, and I'm like, geez, I got to admit, it's actually tough because I'm so used to what Cakewalk has. If I'm doing my individual tracks, Cakewalk's built-in EQ on each track is very convenient. I know how to just run through that. I'll have my isotope stuff actually on my masters. You're like, okay, just really fine mixing and mastering there, and I'm pretty happy with that. It's been giving me a really good sound, just that. Cakewalk stuff is pretty good. I know that a lot of people out there would sort of poo-poo it because Cakewalk isn't exactly top tier these days compared to Steinberg or Logic. But, that workflow. And, the workflow is easy. But Nova does look really good. I mean, I see that's you got your 4 bands and you've got your high pass and low pass there. What exactly did you mean by the Q being a little stiff?
So normally with the knobs, if you hold the mouse and you push the mouse up, the Q goes really fast to the left or to the right. And this one, it seems like if it's like resisting you, so it's moving slowly. I mean, like I said, maybe I didn't figure if you push or you click down on the to the left and it moves fast, or even to the right. But it seemed like no matter where I was doing it, it was just giving me a lot of pushback. And like I said, that's really minute. Like that's nothing to really knock down the EQ over. In terms of, I would be trying to base it off of how does it compare to our native EQ, like you said, with Sonar, or for me with like Cubase. One thing I did see is that I think you can actually do mid-side EQ. There's a preference up at the top, it says stereo. And one thing I also liked is that, similar to I think like FabFilter and also notably that I have for the EQ and Cubase, is that you can turn the analyzer off, so it shows you the frequency spectrum of what you're EQing out and what's the signal that's coming in as you are adjusting your bands and getting the sound that you're looking close to achieving. And I really did like that. I didn't actually play with any of the presets. Normally when I get a plugin, I don't, because I just know that I just need to get in there and test it out myself. I've done that preset route a long time ago, and it's just a waste of time because I usually know once you know how to use once you know what the plugin is supposed to do, I feel like you should just kind of get in there and start carving it out the way that you're trying to achieve what you're trying to achieve. Right. And presets are great to filter through if you're not getting that. Maybe there's something in between. But for me, I feel like it's a waste of time now. So I just go in there and start tweaking stuff immediately.
Yeah. I actually personally do use presets a lot because I'll start from a preset and then start making adjustments. But it's like, okay, it's quick enough to go through a menu and be like, oh, right, I do. I mean, there's a lot of places where I'll actually just start from a preset. Even for something like my RME, I'll do like some EQ and compression on the input. I'll be like, okay, cool. Yeah. I'll have my RME preamp set as basically a channel strip. I'll start from a preset and then make adjustments from there. I mean, because I just know, oh, right, it's going to give me a compander there, and it's going to do this EQ. And I'm not sure about this guy's voice, but I know it's like that, and I know I'll probably get really close with this preset, and then I'll start making adjustments from there.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good idea. I think I do the presets with mostly like guitar amps. So it just depends, I guess, like what's going on. Mostly modulation presets too. I have to run through those, but some of them they have so many. You're just like, there's no way I'm gonna get through 80 of these, and I have like limited time to like write or create the sound. So got to figure this out fast.
Oh man, that's actually really true. Like, as long as the presets are actually at a manageable number, you're being presented with a dozen things, or something along those lines. Okay, cool. I'll start from there. Choose that preset and start moving. There's another thing that I really like. What is it? What is it called? It's Overloud's. It's Overloud's convolution reverb, and it's a really great sounding reverb. I never do presets with that thing. It's because when you open up the preset box, that box that it opens is ginormous for me. It's like, whoa, what am I doing? I have no idea how to navigate through that huge box that just opened. So I don't even open that thing anymore. It's like, okay, what am I doing? I'll load specifically this WAV file. All right, go, 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 go. And it's faster that way. Once it starts putting up that box of just preset upon preset where there's 100 or so on the screen, yeah. So in that case, no presets for me there.
Too many. Yep. But yeah, so that's the latest toy I've been messing with. I actually tried to go shopping today, looking for seeing if there was some kind of cool little pedal out there or something, because my mind is starting to think about building a synthesizer a little bit closely, or tinkering with some toys and resoldering to get a different sound. And I'm thinking about changing up my sound completely, because I realize it might be dated, and I'm actually kind of tired of it myself. So I think I'm just going to switch it up and do something totally out of my comfort zone that I'm not too familiar with.
Okay.
So we'll see. We'll see what sound comes out of it. Hopefully it doesn't go back to sounding like how it did, even though I got different things. But I don't think that will happen, because the character of a waveform is different in an analog form than in digital, and I've been mostly working in digital.
Right. Well, that sounds fun. That'll be a fun discovery for you.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Well,
it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah. Speaking of fun toys, we're going to be giving away a toy, because
yes,
it's been a while. Isotope has been a wonderful sponsor for the show, and we love extolling their virtues because, quite honestly, they make really, really good stuff. I talk all the time about things like Isotope RX, Neutron, and all that stuff. But it's actually really easy to get caught up in this whole thing of, oh, Isotope is great for fixing stuff. When in reality, there's a whole lot of Isotope software that is great for being musically creative. And we want to give away one of those things right now. So here is what you should do. If you want a chance at getting Break Tweaker, which is a really cool tool for modulating and creating and editing breaks and drum loops and really just transforming the heck out of all that stuff, all you have to do is make a tweet and make sure that Isotope Inc. and Game Audio Hour are in the tweet along with the hashtag break controller. So yeah, just like that in the picture, tweet Isotope Inc., Game Audio Hour, and hashtag break controller. And we'll give you maybe a few percentage points extra if you make this a really funny tweet about how you're going to make some really cool percussion loops out of your, I don't know, your armpits or something like that. I am horrible at the funny thing, so we rely on you and our Twitter feed in order to provide that humor, that much-needed humor in our Twitter feed. So Isotope Inc., Game Audio Hour, and hashtag break controller with your funny tweet, and you will be entered to possibly win a copy of Break Tweaker. And we're going to announce the winner in the middle of the show next week, Game Audio Hour episode 148. So you have a week to just make some tweets about this, and you will be entered into this contest.
Good luck.
Good luck, everyone. I'll share this out again towards the end of the show for the people who are the lollygaggers who who don't come right at the very beginning of the show. But that's okay. Yeah, we'll give them a chance to.
They're in traffic.
Oh, man. Oh, there are a couple people on the chat. Brian Olafson says, I don't use Twitter. No chance for me, huh? Oh, man. I'm sorry. This is, in fact, specifically a Twitter contest. So sorry about that, Brian. Well, that does give us an idea of maybe we should think about expanding it beyond the Twitterverse. But for now, this will be a Twitter contest. And don't worry, maybe you'll have chances next month for the next Isotope giveaway. Let's see what else in the chat. Daniel Kim says, how do you suggest changing one's unique sounds? Ooh, toys. Well, you kind of answered it right there. I mean, toys are really great. I mean, yeah, searching for toys is definitely one of those things. But, you know, beyond that, there's also sort of the modulating and building of one's own physical virtuosity. I know part of why I actually have my particular sound is because of my preference of input. You know, someone was joking in the live chat about the Iwi, you know. This is part of my sound because this is a weird input for me. You know, and I like this. That is part of my unique sound. What else is here? Hold on. This is also part of my unique sound. I'm a pen input guy. And there are things that I will do and I will not do because if I do this on a touch screen, maybe the rotary encoders on the user interface of this plugin are just going to go wild and all over the place. Or maybe I'm actually very, very precisely manipulating an EQ node, and it will go exactly where I want it to go. And it makes it that much faster for me to iterate and make changes and make very meaningful changes. So, you know, yeah, when it comes to one's unique signature sound, for me, it's all about owning what it is that you do. And if you can't quite get a full grasp on that, well, try to get a grasp on that so that you can grab it and then push forward with it. So that is my quick 2 cents on that. What do you think about that?
I concur with that completely. I don't have those special tools that you have, but I usually just work with modulation, like chorus or flange or choppers or filters. I mean, on the last project to create the sound for "I Can't Escape Darkness," I used a lot of guitar pedals, and I used them on my voice, and it totally changed the sound completely to give a very menacing and dark creature tone that I was looking for. And you just, I think it's just it goes back to experimentation and exploring. And it's like if you think about what if, then just let that what if be an action and just go with it. Like I think it was I can't remember. I know there was a drum loop that I had, and it was more of like a conga like sound that I was using. And I used Isotope Trash too, that I won at one GDC. And it totally changed the sound of it completely to like something guitar-like. And I was like, oh, no one's gonna know like that's not a guitar, because the guitarists know what guitars sound like, and no one's gonna know that it's a conga drum. So I kept it, and then I built a whole track around that, and I love it. And yeah, you just kind of think about the what if and let that be. And go
with it. I like that. I like that a whole lot. I think you, I think that's just really cool that you're able to find that, you know, either you're adding it to your bevy of tools, or you're grabbing onto it, you find it, and then you latch onto it, and you keep on developing from there. I think that's just great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's see. I didn't get to this last week, but I actually had a particular bit of fun with recording with an orchestra.
Oh.
So I kind of want to talk about this because I've recorded with orchestras before, but this was actually the first time for me to deal with a particular orchestra service called Dynamedion.
Yes.
Are you familiar with them?
I am. I'm familiar with them and their pricing. I'm not familiar with them through the experience of having something recorded, but so I'm interested in hearing what you have to say.
Yeah. So for the people who are not familiar with them, I'm going to first put a link in the chat and say, hey, Dynamedion.com is a music service. They provide lots of different services, especially for video games. But one of the other things that they do is orchestral recording. Okay, that's not too crazy. There's actually a lot of different places that will do orchestra coordination and recording services. But the thing that Dynamedion actually does pretty regularly are these open recording sessions where they'll put out a call and say, hey, people, 3 months from now, we're going to have this orchestra in, let's just say, Portugal for a day. If you want to record music with them, submit your music. It could be 1 minute long. It could be 15 minutes long. But you know, we've got them for this day, and because you can do music as short as 1 minute in length, that's all you have to pay for. You don't have to pay for fully booking this this recording studio and the orchestra and the conductor for what is typically a 4-hour chunk of time, at least, right? So I actually did this just recently because I was working on a game and we only needed a very little bit of music. How little? It was just about 1.5 minutes. So if you go to this link, dynamedion.com/orchestra, there's a calculator on the bottom. And if you plug in 1 minute and 30 seconds, it says, oh, you've got 18 minutes of recording time. And 18 minutes of recording time will cost you about 1,185 euros. For people in the US world, that's about $1,400, which is kind of great because even though it is $1,400, it's a whole lot cheaper than booking an orchestra for a minimum of 2 to 4 hours, which can be a really excessive cost considering you only need a very small amount of music. So I was really glad to see that Dynamedion had this particular service, and the timing plus this particular game work that I was working on happened to line up just right. So, bam, it's great. Kind of,
Super
sort of. It wasn't perfect. And it's not because of them. I will actually go ahead and say it was because of me that it wasn't perfect. The recording was actually great. The performance was great. The weeks leading up to the session, a little less great. So I had mentioned that previously I had worked with orchestras, but I'd actually worked with orchestrators. You know, I would actually hire an orchestrator. I would hire someone to actually handle parts preparation for all of this stuff. And I would give them MIDI mockups, and I would like to think that they're actually pretty good MIDI mockups. I'm very cognizant of, okay, if I'm doing bassoon, I could only do this range. If I'm doing a French horn, I'm doing this range. Oh yeah, he's going to have problems doing this dynamic or doing this particular run there. I like to think I'm pretty good at that, but that that price of $1,400, that's just if you're doing recording and you have your music absolutely 100% fully prepared. So the only thing that you are giving to the orchestra is PDFs.
Yep.
You know, ready to record right there and then. If you say that you need full-on orchestration services, then there's actually quite a bit more in cost. You know, it gets up to probably about $2,500, $3,000. You know, almost double, because then you're employing multiple people to do all this other work of arrangement and orchestration. And I thought, okay, well, I'm only doing a minute and a half. I'm going to do this myself. And I realized it's been a while since I seriously had to do music orchestration in Sibelius. The last time I dealt with Sibelius was back in Sibelius 4 5 days when I was in college. And I was like, okay, I'll play around with this, and oh man, there's so many details that I just didn't realize. I totally forgot about. How am I going to change the pagination on this? Oh, wait, how do I move this bar from one system to the next? How am I going to actually write this pedal marking here? How am I going to change the headers so that I don't have all the page numbers over there? No, I want to put all the measure numbers on the bottom with every measure, not just with every system. All those little things, all those little details are things that you have to do so that the orchestra is playing consistently, because you know you're asking this orchestra to one, record composer A who's before you, and then record your music, and then record composer B who's after you, and all of that stuff should be consistent so that this orchestra can operate at peak efficiency.
Yeah, it's also about sight reading.
Yeah, just doing things like, oh wait, I need to rewrite this section so that I'm actually in the proper mode. Oh wait, I didn't do atonal mode, so for my transposing instruments, they have a key signature, but everyone else doesn't. Oh, and it's all these little details. And it was very much trial by fire for me for a solid week, because I just forgot about all these things that need to be done. And in the end, I actually asked friends and editors and other people, can you help me out with this thing and help me out with this thing? And they were, I'm very glad that I actually had some friends to call on that can guide me through things like, dealing with formatting headers in Sibelius, which is not an obvious process. So many of these things are not obvious.
Yeah, definitely not intuitive.
I noticed that you've been nodding and shaking your head at all these times throughout. Like, wait a minute, are you a Sibelius guy or a Finale guy? You're a Sibelius guy. Yeah,
I
so
wasn't finale. I started with finale.
You started
and I couldn't do it anymore. And my best friend told me, he's like, when you get Sibelius, you'll know. And he told me, and I opened Sibelius one time with Sibelius 6, which I actually still use. And I haven't looked back. I have not looked back. It's just so much, for me, it's just easier, and it just speaks the language that I'm used to in the workflow.
Man.
Yeah, I know how you feel, and oh man, that's so scary. I was thinking about, like, first of all, with the sight reading, I mean, they have to play music that they've never heard before.
Yeah.
Right? And you're paying them, and it has to sound good to you, and everything, like you said, has to be right, and the spacing on the pages per measure, per system, has to be clean, and it needs to be legible. It can't be tiny. It's got to look really, really professional, and that stuff takes time. And if you're not proficient in your notation software, you're asking for a train wreck, and it gets very embarrassing. And I've been through that a couple times, one with the jazz arrangement and one with my very first string piano arrangement when I was in community college. But I think it's a good experience, as long as you're not paying Hollywood professional union players to play that music, then it's okay. But still, it's embarrassing nonetheless for the learning experience. That's not.
Yeah, I think I actually did the, even though it was trial by fire, for me, it's I think that I actually ended up leveling up. I feel like I came away from this whole situation with, oh wow, this actually kind of worked out. And I looked back and I said, oh, okay, this is what I learned. This is what I learned. This is what I learned. This is how much time I spent learning this stuff. And I'm looking back on that and thinking, wow, that was pretty worthwhile. I wonder if I'm going to do this for my next session. I am not sure, because if it is a short session, if it is, let's say about 5 or 10 minutes of music, I bet I could probably do that now, because there's a whole lot of things that I've learned from this, and I know that I can keep on moving from that. But I'm not sure if I would want to do that for a recording session that will be a full soundtrack that spans days. I think I would most likely hire assistants, hire friends, people to actually help me out with things like parts preparation, which can be just really fiddly, really detail oriented.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I said, it comes down to the sight reading, and if anything is wrong, it's stopping, and time is money. You don't want any questions when it's the downbeat. You just don't. It needs to just be extremely copacetic and running as smoothly as possible.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Some people are talking in the chat about this, oh man, I haven't used Sibelius for a long time. The version I had doesn't even work on my computer anymore. Let's see. Let's see here. Mike Bop was saying, oh man, had the part editor move around your bars and tie bars and flats all around in the wrong place. Man, stupid parts extraction. And
yeah,
sometimes I make that part and I think, oh, this is great. And all right, violins work, violas work. What is going on with my cellos? Why are my systems all over the place? What is going on? Let's see here. What else is going on? Oh, yeah. So you mentioned MuseScore. Have you actually used MuseScore a lot, Chase?
I use it a little bit. Let's see, last year for a couple months, I actually had to do a couple projects, and my computer crashed with Sibelius on it, and I couldn't figure out how to get it working on the laptop and all this other stuff. And so I needed to turn something in within 2 days. So I downloaded MuseScore. I learned it within 3 hours. And luckily, like I was saying just in the chat, that some of the quick keys from Sibelius transfer over into MuseScore, and MuseScore is free.
Yeah, that's true.
So my bacon was saved on that. I tried Notefly, and it's a little bit counterproductive for me. It's good. I know people who've gotten a lot of things done, but wow, like MuseScore actually, like, I really enjoy it. I would use it again. I've been debating about doing an arrangement from this game called Deja Vu, and
the old
using
adventure
MuseScore.
game.
Yes,
Oh
yes.
my
The little
god.
clip. Yeah, I love that music. And so I'm thinking about doing an arrangement for a concert soon, and I wanted to do that in MuseScore. And just to kind of keep my chops up with certain things, because I know that I know Sibelius decently, not like a pro, but I've gotten I've done short score sketches and other big part stuff and big band and jazz parts and orchestral parts in Sibelius. So I just want to expand my technical knowledge and chops in MuseScore and see how far I get.
Right.
So I think it's pretty good. I think people should give it a shot. It's always kind of daunting to learn a new software, I believe, but it's also when you have a deadline, and you figure out any way to get it done.
Yeah. Sometimes pressure is exactly what you need.
You need to learn something quick.
Yeah.
Kudos to them. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know about Noteflight. I feel like I've heard about it, but I've never actually tried it. So that's pretty cool. Besides MuseScore, which I've toyed around with, and MuseScore does seem pretty cool, especially since they hit version 2 just kind of recently. I think it was just the end of last year that they hit version 2.
Yeah, that's when I use it.
Yeah, and
it's pretty great.
Yeah, the features are actually starting to get really close to what you get out of Vanilla and Sibelius now.
Yeah, that's why I really liked it, and I have nothing but really good things to say about it. So I think people will appreciate it.
Yeah, nothing beats the price. Let's see.
Sometimes.
Yeah, let's see. Daniel Kim, my old Finale 2014 isn't working so well on my Mac, but I don't think the upgrade is worth it. My classes use Sibelius and Finale, but I think I'll be using MuseScore instead. Thanks, Chase.
You're welcome, Daniel. You're welcome.
Let's see. Brian is talking about, in the end, orchestration isn't the end-all be-all, right? Wow.
That's a good question. I'm going to let you go first.
Oh, man. Yeah, orchestration is tough. I think... So I actually mentioned this to you, Chase, but I know that one of our mutual composer friends, Jeff Broadbent, he was talking about how, okay, orchestration is great, and you can be a great orchestrator, but knowing what the orchestra is capable of is huge. You can make the best orchestration. You can be incredibly descriptive about everything that goes into it. But if you don't know how to convey it in exactly the way that this person in this orchestra is able to do it, well, then you're screwed. And that's why it's actually, even if you are a fantastic orchestrator, if you're incredibly well practiced at your Sibelius and you have all of Ravel just stuck in your brain, you just know exactly what it means in order to make something for orchestra, it's still worth looking at what are these orchestration and parts prep services that these music coordination companies actually offer, because the big advantage that they have, they know their players, they know their orchestra, and they can write to them. They can look at your parts and be like, I can make this recommendation, or, oh, this is what you want to do with harp. Well, I would recommend that we actually do it at another session, because there's a harpist that there's another harpist that's not available for your orchestra date, but this harpist can actually do it, and we can do it in an overdub later. Stuff like that. Yep. So
absolutely, and I concur with you 100%. I'm actually thinking about, in terms of breaking it down a little bit further and knowing the principles of orchestration through what they call timbre or tone color, which is what you were saying was, if you know how to use the orchestra, and that comes with knowing the colors, knowing that the flute fits well with the strings, and that the bassoon actually doubles pretty well with the cellos and the double basses because it has that low end, and that comes through knowing the sound and the color of these instruments. And so I'm thinking of tracker days and early 90s type of MIDI, and understanding the waveforms as itself as if you are orchestrating it right, you're hearing pretty, like, you're limited to your channels, right? You either have 4 channels or you have 6 channels in the tracker, right? And if you're using your channels properly, and you know probably the orchestration, which has been around for a long time, you're probably able to arrange those, you know, triangle, sawtooth, and sine waves very, very, very well and masterfully, like they did in the demo scene, of achieving a really good, you know, track, and achieving, you know, really great grooves and music and the pockets to fill, and understanding where other things are going to come in and out. And I think, like I said, I'm breaking it down to the minimum of just actual waveforms. And now, so you add like a human, you know, intonation and performance into that, and bring it into a collaborative art form of an orchestra. Now you're getting into more complex things, and yes, it is going to come together better. And you're not going to have to struggle with it sounding maybe not as full as you think it should sound, right? Because if knowing the basics is going to help you build upon the foundation and building the tower that you want.
Yeah.
And that's what I've learned. That's what I've definitely learned. So no, it's not the be all end all, but you will simplify a lot of mixing issues down the road. That's I think that's the point I'm trying to make.
Oh man, yeah, that is so true. You know, there's mixing in orchestration before you enter your mix sessions after all the tracks are delivered.
Yes,
you know, if you can do a little bit of that work right at the beginning, it helps. Ooh, let's see. Gerard, hey, what's up? He's in the chat right now. He says, anyone who hasn't used a score program in forever should look long and hard at Dorico. Everything good from Sibelius mixed with everything good from the Cubase score editor, but decoupled from Sequencer Think.
Yeah, I'm a big Cubase fan, as you know. I use Cubase, and I haven't tried Dorico yet, but I did have good hopes about like how it uses the score editor from that, and I want to try it, and I will eventually. So I'm curious. I know that our other panelist, Mike Shapiro, has probably been using that a little bit too, so he can probably speak on it when he returns. But yeah, I would love to give Dorico a chance. I think it came out last year.
Yeah, I would want to give it a chance too. I heard when it was released last year that it was very early. Even though it was technically Dorico version 1.0, it wasn't really at feature parity with something like Finale or Sibelius. But now it seems like it's getting close. So I would definitely want to check it out. I know Mike Shapiro has been playing it with it right now. I don't think he's been doing any super serious, oh, this is for a project work with it, but he has been playing with it. And I would like to check it out myself.
Yeah, we should definitely check it out and see. Do you know how much it is? Was it like 300 or?
I think it's somewhere around 300. I actually remember thinking, oh man, they provide an educational upgrade price, and
I like that. I know where that's gonna go.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's one of the nice benefits of. Oh wait, if you don't have anything right now, if you're not eligible for any sort of upgrade, it costs $560. If you are a cross-grading user, like you have something like Sibelius or Finale, or even Notion, which is actually Presonus's scoring option, then it's $280, so almost $300.
Yeah.
The educational upgrade is $160, and that's the price that I personally am willing to pay.
Yeah. So Dorico full version. I mean, is it gonna cook you breakfast or? My goodness, that's I mean, that's as much as Cubase costs.
I actually agree with that. I mean, even though Dorico is from the team that brought you Sibelius, I'm actually kind of surprised they didn't have that as a tagline. From the team that brought you Sibelius comes Dorico. I don't know.
Get them, bitch. That free app you're using.
Oh man, this is just my cheap little dynamic. You know, it's an SM57 wannabe. But let's see. It's going straight into the RME anyways. But yeah, $160. That's pretty good. Well, especially in light of the fact that when it launched, it wasn't fully featured. It just didn't have all the features that you expect if you're going to compete head on with Finale and Sibelius. But maybe it's better now because they're finally getting to feature parity. Gerard does say you get a free trial month to try it.
Yeah, we just heard that right now. Thanks, Gerard.
And that's true. All those sequencers, not sequencers, all those scoring programs will give you free month. Avid gives you a free month of Sibelius if you download it, and so Dorico gives you that free month. So that's cool. It's worth checking out. Everything I've heard is that Dorico is user friendly in a way that both Finale and Sibelius are not. That learning curve is just nowhere near as steep at the very beginning of use. And because it's Steinberg, maybe they'll actually put some muscle behind it, and maybe in a year or two we'll see a big faction of Dorico guys.
I would love to be on that team. Absolutely, trying that out. I think I might download it this week.
Oh, cool. Yeah, you know what? I might actually do that too, because I have a little bit of free time happening in the next 2 weeks. And since I have all these things that I just prepared in Sibelius, that's actually some prime fodder for me to work with. See if I could, how quickly I can sort of recreate all that stuff.
Yeah, we should do a little test run, like maybe like a 16-bar measure or something, and then come back in a couple shows and give people 411.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. Wait a minute. Who's this guy? There's a person in the chat room named Kyle Johnson. He says, "Hi guys, himself. What did I miss?" You know what you missed, Kyle? I'll show you what you missed. So we're coming to the end of the show right here. But for the people who are late coming in, I just want to reiterate, we are giving away iZotope's Break Tweaker. So all you have to do in order to enter into this contest is tweet at us. Tweet at iZotope Inc. and at Game Audio Hour. And include the hashtag Break Controller. And if you do that with hopefully a pretty funny or witty tweet, then you will be entered to win Break Tweaker, which is a really fun piece of software for creating and modulating and just doing fun musical stuff with break beats and drum loops and all that fun stuff. So check it out. Hopefully, the winner, which will be announced next week, I swear you will have fun, because iZotope doesn't just make cool editing tools, they make really cool music creation tools. So there you go. There you go. It's actually almost 7 o'clock right now. So, it's one thing we didn't do today is we haven't mentioned any games. So I know that you're a big fan of this. Chase, have you been playing anything cool lately? Any cool video games?
Oh, switch back. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So I have not been I've only been playing the cool games I've been working on, but one of them I absolutely cannot talk about. The other one is still on hold because I just got the strategy guide for it, because I cannot put any more of 100,000 hours into this game, which is Breath of the Wild. So I'm breaking down. I've gotten the strategy guide. I haven't bought a strategy guide since I was in 7th grade or 6th grade. So it recently just came. I finished the project that I was on, and now I'm going to have a little bit of time to pretty much wrap up the game and move on to other things. I think the next one on the list that I'm most penchant for, I'm thinking, is going to be Neo.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll be cool.
Actually, no, I take that back. It's going to be Hellblade, because that just came out and that looks amazing.
Oh,
Hellblade. Sounds amazing. Yes, Senua's.
Yeah, that's right. It just came out. Yeah.
Just came out. $30.
For the makers. PS4. Yeah, from the makers of Heavenly Sword and Slave.
Yes.
So there's some pretty good pedigree there. Ninja Theory, yeah.
Because I saw Enslaved, and I knew I should have got it. I know that game is going to go up in the retro scene, and it's going to be like $30, $40 because this game came out, and I have to find that game soon. As a retro collector, I must have that. So, but yeah, I will be trying. After I finish Breath of the Wild, I'm going to hop into a Hellblade, because it just looks like Shadow of Mordor and Horizon Zero Dawn fused together. I didn't play Horizon Zero Dawn yet. I heard great things about it, but Breath of the Wild and Horizon Zero Dawn came out around the same time this year, and so I got that one first, so that one won.
Right.
But that's what I'm going to be playing. So, what about you?
Nice. Right now I'm getting my ass kicked in Overwatch.
I mean, they've been trying to put me onto that.
The problem is I've spent like a whole bunch of hours watching my wife, formerly fiance, now wife, play Overwatch. Just put hour after hour after hour into it, and she's actually pretty good at it. She's good at just going through and the higher level strategy as well as the lower level techniques. And I'm really annoyed at myself because I'm just not quite doing that. I'm not that fast at making these decisions,
Sure, yeah.
Oh man. So it's kind of frustrating because I'm comparing myself to her, who has already, flipped the levels, and no, I'm at level 5.
Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad.
I mean, I'm playing. I'm sometimes getting into arcade and quick play, and then I find myself frustrated because even though I'm level 5, it's not matching me up with other level 5 or level 10 guys. I find myself on teams with 80, 90, and I'm like, oh, what am I gonna do? I guess I'll play Mercy and try to be proper support or something. I'm scary, but that's okay. And Val actually ends up just hanging out and telling me, okay, don't worry, just do this. Okay, you're in this map, you should do this. Hang out over here, fly, and like, okay. Sean says, haha, what do you play it on, Vince? I played on PS4. Yeah. I am a PS4 guy. Val plays it on PS4 as well, which means we have 2 PS4s in her house. That's kind of fun.
She should help you level up. That was going to be my next question. So you don't get put in that big group of something. You guys should get like a couple of group, like 6 players that you guys know. So that's 2. So you're just mixing 4 more players, and she should help you out.
Yeah, well, I mean, she's helping me out with like, trying to get me to grok high level strategy and whatnot. Michael Hoffman says the sound design in Overwatch is fantastic.
Yes,
I agree.
They won the awards this year. They swept the awards this year.
I mean, all of those awards are really well earned. There's really good design. There's really good. The voiceover is actually great. The technical stuff. My first experience with Overwatch sound design was actually a bunch of technical talks at GDC about how they manage dynamic mixing for different perspectives. Whether you're on the enemy team versus player team and whatnot. There's some really good sound design happening in Overwatch, and it's important to have that sound design both for spectators as well as properly communicating to the players themselves. Overwatch is a great game to play as well as a great game to study. So, oh man, right, Daniel Kim, hold on. Daniel Kim says, Vincent, there's a character named Symmetra. Symmetra is my wife's main. So she knows Symmetra. She knows all the tricks with Symmetra. I have seen her get so many plays of the game as Symmetra. She's very good at optimizing her turret placement and knowing how exactly to do that, and even when to be aggressive with her short attack. So, all right, it's already past 7. We have to end the show, but actually, we want to try something a little bit different. Before we end the show, there were so many things that we wanted to talk about. I actually want to link you people in the chat to this article from Brian Eno. It's not specifically about game music, but he actually talks about ambient music. And a lot of things are very relevant for us as game music composers and game sound designers. He talks about things like generative music and what it means to be a music composer for generative music. And from there, he goes into other concepts like minimalism and the politics of creation and what does it mean to actually be an artist and work within particular structures when you're working with this art. And this is something I'm really looking forward to chatting with you, Chase, as well as everyone else on the Game Audio Hour team. And I'm actually really looking forward to seeing if maybe the live chatties, if you're going to be coming back next week, know that we're going to start off with this topic about, oh man, all this nuance that is being added to the world of music creation by virtue of new technology, procedural generation, and all that fun stuff. So we're going to start off on that next week. But for now, thank you for watching episode 147 of Game Audio Hour. Thank you to the chatties. Thanks, Chase. If you want to follow us, please do so on Twitter. We're tweeting from @GameAudioHour. You can also like us on Facebook. So check us out over there, and we'll be back with another show next week. So
yes, we will.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thanks for watching.